Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seriously Loco, the Seriously Crazy Fan Podcast for El Paso Locomotive FC. I'm your host, Phil Baki. I'm joined tonight by Mikka Burrell. Mikka, we got a big one for the listeners tonight.
We do. I'm very excited for this episode, and I'll just leave it at that because we'll let the guest speak for himself.
Yeah, we'll dispense with the normal admin relatively quickly. You know where to find us on socials and your favorite podcast platforms. Seriously Loco Soccer Pod. But tonight it is a big one. We have tonight the new manager for El Paso Locomotive FC, a U.S. Open Cup winner as a manager with Houston Dynamo, and now in charge of the Locos. It is Wilmer Cabrera joining us tonight. Wilmer, welcome, and thanks for spending your evening with us.
Thanks, Philly, for the invitation, and I'm happy to be here.
Obviously, it's like you said, it's been a lot going on, I guess. So welcome to El Paso, first and foremost. How are you? Are you settling in okay? I know you said it might be moving day for you today.
Yes, today is my moving day, and yes, it's busy. Actually, I took me a few minutes to connect the Wi-Fi, the internet, the computer. If you have moved, the issues with moving situations, that you have to buy things, you have to organize things, you have to unpack, pack, etc., etc. But it's part of my life. I've been doing this for my almost my entire life, so I'm used to it. The only thing is it takes time, and it's something that if you have something that you would like to avoid, is the moving aspect. That's for sure. You don't want to do that.
I definitely feel that. It's been a whirlwind couple of weeks coming in. A lot, it seemed like it came together relatively quickly in terms of you joining Locomotive. So I wanted to just get your side of the story. How did the move come together? How did Wilmer end up in El Paso in charge of Locomotive?
Yes, it was a sudden call. I was doing other things. I was planning other projects, but it was a nice conversation with the president and the general manager, and I needed to take the quick decision, and after that conversation, submitting and check different things, I decided to come, and I didn't hesitate, and I'm here.
I was thinking, did they mention that your record against Locomotive as the boss of RGV, did that come in to play at all? I mean, 4 wins, a couple of draws, and only 2 losses. Was that you being a formidable foe to Locomotive? Did that play into their decision making?
Nothing at all. I didn't even know. I don't pay attention to all those things. I just learned that, we beat Locomotive 4 times, and I didn't know. I did. To be honest with you, those are statistics that doesn't change my philosophy, my mentality, or the ideas that I have. It's just, nothing about that. It's just me trying to make sure that if I go to a place, I would like to go to a place where I can find support, and I can find, the possibilities to join a project with working together for a team, with a team. So that's, for me right now, it's the most important.
Well, you talked a little bit there, Wilmer, about your mentality and your philosophy, specifically talking about tactics. How would you describe Wilmer Cabrera football? I mean, we've seen you play 4-4-2 so far. It's only been a couple of matches, so obviously I'm sure there's more to come, but how do you describe your tactical philosophy?
I obviously have played different type of formations and tactics. I use different type of tactics and formation throughout my career as a coach, because I have to adapt to the type of players that I have available. We're first in United States. No club in United States has any kind of philosophy or style of play. We have to start with that. We cannot name one. Why? Because in order for you to do that, you have to have specific type of play, a specific type of tactics, and it has to be implemented from the lower level of the academy to the first team. And it doesn't exist. And it's going to take time for a club to say, hey, this is our philosophy. Different than Europe. We have clubs in Europe for 100 years. And they can do that. Right now, because of the growing aspect of the game here in the United States, it's trying to implement possibilities to entertain and to win being a coach in a club, professional level or academy level. So I adapt. Wherever I go, the type of players that I have, because if I don't have a lot of forwards, or I don't have forwards, wide forwards that can play out wide, I cannot force my style of play to those players, because I'm not going to be happy and the players won't be happy and they won't perform at their best. So I need to make sure that I adapt to the players that I have and try to create the best system for them to perform well. That's my idea, and it's how I've been doing it here in the United States since I've been coaching.
Well, speaking of that history in the United States, managing in the United States, we talked about the Houston team where you did win the U.S. Open Cup. You took a team that had the lowest payroll in the league deep into the playoffs as well. Adding in your time at Montreal, your time at RGV, you have a bit of a reputation as a manager who gets more from your squads than would be necessarily predicted, maybe in preseason or by the names on the page. Do you think that's a fair assessment of you as a manager, that you try to get that you do consistently get more out of your squads than many would expect?
It's not because I have chosen my path. It's because the teams that I have been, hired for, and it's not the biggest budget. So I have to take the decision, or you go, or you just wait for the better teams. And in my position, I cannot wait. I have to, accept the challenge. And that challenge also is helping me and educating me the best way to try to, work. How can I take, or how can I give these players the best tools, and how can I receive the extra performance or motivation from the players, understanding that we don't have the best budget and we don't have the best possibilities. So it's just something that I've been pushed to do that. And, I have to be a survivor in that area. And now I feel comfortable. I don't feel happy, but I feel comfortable. I would love to have the best budget in one of the best budget, but if I cannot do that, it is life. It is my duty, and I cannot quit for that. It's not going to make me quit.
Wilmer, more of a question about you as a player, because obviously you have a storied managerial career, but you also have a wonderful playing career, both with club sides, America de Cali, Millonarios. You played for the Colombian national team. If I'm not mistaken, you were a fullback, and I'm curious, what do you make of fullbacks being required to do so much in the modern game, other than just be good one-on-one defenders? We see fullbacks having to, get into the attacking third and make assists. We see fullbacks inverting into midfield. I'm just curious, as a former fullback yourself, what do you make of that position in the modern game now?
Mika, I had the experience, and I don't know if this is also positive or was negative for me. I would take it like a positive experience. I play in all positions. I play for my youth national team. I played 2 World Cups as a center forward, because I was a center forward at the beginning of my career. Then I played as a winger. Then they started to push me a little bit through the middle, because I was very, back and forth, working hard, box to box. So, okay, you know what? Maybe you can help us in the middle. And then I tried different things. And suddenly one day I had to play as a right back. And as a right back, it's not like I was happy playing in that position, because my tendencies always were to be offensive player. I like to score goals. But because having that position as a right back, I was more with the tendency to go forward, to attack, to get into the box, to cross the ball, to generate attacking possibilities for the team. That gave me the push and the advantage to be with the full national team and to play with the best teams and to be recognized nationally in my country. So the only thing that I have to do is continuing that projection, continuing that support, because I was doing it well. And as a right back, I try to, obviously, I'm more expert with the white backs, because I play more there, and I play World Cups, full World Cups in that position, and I play internationally in that position. So I try to give them the advice, because in today's game, they are, if not the most important, one of the most important positions for the modern football, modern soccer around the world. You have to have very good white backs if not only you want to defend, but also if you want to attack and you want to produce possibilities in attack.
Well, as we kind of shift our focus towards what you've done now since you've arrived, and kind of the last couple of weeks, and just trying to dissect some of that coming into the job, I was curious how much of the team, as you had these conversations with Locomotive's hierarchy, how much were you then able to watch of the team, and where did you see in what you saw from this squad in the first part of the season, where did you see that you could have the most impact with them?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm trying to get to know the players right now. I'm trying to experience some tactical aspects. I'm trying to experience some possibilities in order for me to get to know them better, because it's different when you watch the TV than when you work with them. Today I completed my 8th practice with the team. So, and we have 2 games. One went in a positive way. The second one went in a really negative way. So, and we don't have time to change too many things. Why? Because now we have to play on Wednesday, and today is Monday. And today we needed to recover a little bit. Sorry, today is Tuesday. It's Tuesday? No, today is Monday.
It is Monday. It caught me out too.
Whirlwind, absolute whirlwind.
Yes. So today is Monday, and we have to travel tomorrow. So we needed to prepare the game for Wednesday, but we cannot work extremely hard today, because We play Saturday. So it is important to balance a little bit of everything, understanding. I said to the club, and I said when I arrived, I'm not a magician. I have to be cautious, but we need to start winning. Well, we have won one, we have lost one. So still not good. And now we have to go to play one more game away, and we cannot lose. We are under pressure, too much under pressure. So I want to make sure if our players can deal with that type of pressure. And not only if they can deal with that type of pressure being in the last place, but also if we can move forward winning, but also performing well. So that's the challenge, that's the responsibility, and I'm going to try to do it. After San Antonio, we're going to have 10 days before we play back here at home against Phoenix. So I hope in those 10 days, I can change things drastically in order for us to go to the field and show a different type of team different than the ones that we have played, especially on Saturday. That was really a disappointed performance for us and for me, for the players, for all of us, for the fans. That was really poor performance in all aspects from our side.
Well, speaking of the Birmingham match that we just had on Saturday, in the press conference afterwards, you described the team as innocent and maybe lacking a little bit of a desire to fight. I know you've only been here for a little bit, Wilmer, but from what you can tell so far, is there maybe an issue with mentality in the squad? And if so, how do you improve that mid-season?
Well, definitely the whole club is affected. The whole club, the city, the fans, everyone is affected. Why? Because being in the last place is not going to help any type of motivation for anybody. The fans are suffering. The fans are hurt. The club is suffering too. The executive, the front office, they're trying to do the right things, but the team is not responding on the field. So if the team doesn't respond on the field, it's tough to be in the front office working on what they have to work. Why? Because every time they knock on the door, someone is going to say, but that team is not winning. They're playing bad. They're losing. I don't want to, support, or I don't want to do this, or it's complicated. So it affects everyone in all aspects. But the players are affected too. And because of that, I want to help them. We need to be cautious that, we cannot deny that we're in a really struggling situation. So it would be a lie to say, no, we are well, we're fine. No, we're not. What we need to recognize that we're not, and the only chance for us to move in a different direction is if we all get together, leave things behind, and start working harder, more united, understanding that it's going to take time. It's not going to be easy. It's going to hurt, but it's the only way. We cannot go lower than this. We need to move up, and we have to work harder in all aspects, mentally, physically, and on the field. We have to fight every ball, every aspect of the game in order for us to try to grind the comeback.
You mentioned the fans there who are some of the best fans in USL Championship. You had the opportunity to meet some of the members of Eighth Notch at the district last week at your meet and greet. And in the in section 105 during the Birmingham match, some of the Eighth Notch had a "In Wilmer We Trust" sign that they were displaying. What does it mean to you to have the support of the diehard fans so soon after coming into the job?
A big, huge responsibility. As soon as I saw that on Saturday and we lost, I feel embarrassed. I feel shame because, yes, they're all happy supporting us and, supporting me, and we performed that well. It's not that we wanted to perform that well. I know that, and that's why I support my players 100%. But it's something that is, at some point, I needed to experience that. I needed to see that in order for me to, but now this is what is happening here at home. I didn't know why we were losing, or why we aren't winning at home the whole season. And now I know. And now I can work on that. But now we have to travel and play in 2 days in San Antonio. So we need to kind of forget a little bit of what happened Saturday, and we need to prepare ourselves to what is coming on Wednesday. And then when we come back, we have to work 100%, and specifically in recover the confidence to play at home, recover the hunger to play at home, recover the intensity to play here at home, to fight for every ball, and to make sure that we can make this a contagious attitude. This contagious attitude is going to be transmitted player by player, coaching staff, and then we can send that to the fans, that they can feel, okay, now we're fighting, now we feel it, okay, something is happening, something positive has to happen.
With the quick turnaround to a match against San Antonio midweek, is the fact that it is an in-state rival, a club that has had there's been a little bit of edge in the games between Locomotive and San Antonio in the past. Is that a help when you have that short turnaround between games to inject a little energy back into the legs and give the players that little bit of extra motivation headed into a game with little training?
I hope that is a good quick transition. I hope that. I'm expecting that. But we have to wait until Wednesday to see how we react. I hope that, we can turn around really quick to say, okay, we had a really bad day. Things weren't, and we were struggling in our ways to play this game and to fight for the situations on the field. But now it's over, won't happen again. It's only one time, and now we're going to fight. Hopefully, we need to do that. I'm expecting the same, and I'm pushing for the same with the players, understanding that we need to make adjustments. We need to make some tools. We need to give them some tools and adjustments in order for us to, okay, we need to change something. Otherwise, if we continue the same way, we're gonna get exposed.
And with I guess within your managerial career, the closest sort of situation I could see to you coming into El Paso midseason was your stint in Montreal, where you did win a Canadian championship with them and had to turn that squad around that was in pretty tough shape when you showed up. How much are you leaning on the lessons from that experience now that you are here in El Paso?
Oh, definitely. When I arrived over there, I found a team that, they were very disrupted in terms of with the motivation with the players, and despite that they were close, not that far. We have so many injuries guys, so many injured guys. We had some guys that they weren't ready, and the motivation and connection wasn't there. So I was able to, with my staff, organize different type of approaches and motivate these guys, recover the injuries, and working with the staff in specific details, and we were able to change. But it was immediate. No, it wasn't immediate. Sadly, it wasn't immediate, and because it wasn't immediate, we couldn't make the playoff in that year. But yes, we were able to lift enough the club to finish in a tough situation, playing well, beating some rivals, big rivals, and winning the Canadian Championship, which the Canadian Cup, which at the end gave the possibility to the club to go to an international competition the following year. But definitely all those experiences, we need to go through that type of book, and we need to bring it into El Paso, into the players, because at the end, the players, being in El Paso, being in Montreal, being in Colombia, being in Europe, they go through all those same situations, and you can help them if you know how to, if you know them, and you know how to, guide them through the right path.
Well, Wilmer, I do want to say again, welcome, and thank you for spending the time with us. Before we let you go, I did just want to ask, as a closing question, the fans obviously putting their weight behind in terms of wanting to make sure that the team has their support. But what is your, I guess, last message to the fans ahead of San Antonio and maybe headed into that 10-day break? What would you want them to know about the Wilmer Cabrera reign in El Paso?
That we, as a staff, coaching staff, and players, we put ourselves in their position, in their situation. We talk on the practice fields. We talk about, how do you feel as a fan? How do you feel if you have to go to the stadium to watch us playing the way we were playing? Because we need to, if we want to be more conscious, we need to put on the other person's shoes in order for us to learn, to imagine, and then to try to find better answers for ourselves. So, yes, we don't feel good. We don't feel happy. We are in debt with the fans, with the club, with ourselves. Because at the end, the players, they know that they are in debt with ourselves, with themselves. Why? Because they can play better. They are better players than what we've been showing. But it needs to be translated into results and into performance. And that's something that has to come quicker, because time is now limited, and we don't have too much time to wait to wake up.
Well, Wilmer, I know it'll be I know a lot of fans will be obviously expecting, but also energized a bit by the fact that that you understand the position that they're in, and making sure that the team gets the energy to turn it around. And hopefully we'll see a good result in a couple of days in San Antonio. And we'll all be able to celebrate. And then obviously Phoenix in a couple of weeks. So looking forward to seeing the team back out there. And I know that yeah, hopefully you continue to get well settled in El Paso and can get your stuff moved in, and can feel a little bit more at home.
Thank you very much for the conversation and the possibility to express what we do, what we are feeling, and obviously it's you are giving us the chance to connect with the fans, to connect with them respectfully, and it's an important bridge that you're giving us with the connection with the fans, with the people outside that they're questioning what are they doing over there, and it is with respect. We understand their situation. We understand their frustration. We understand that a little bit the upsetting situation that we're going through, and we need to respond in a good way. And this is what we do, and this is something that we are capable of. So we have to do it, and that's the goal. And we're working on it, and not only in the mornings when we practice, but it's 24 hours. This is 24 hours.
Well, thanks so much, Wilmer. And yeah, again, appreciate you spending the time. And I know the fans definitely appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wilmer. We appreciate it. And safe travels to San Antonio. And we'll be watching on Wednesday. And hopefully we can catch up again, but, maybe at the end of the season. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. And we travel tomorrow with a lot of expectations and desires, positive desires.
Right. Awesome. Well, thanks, Wilmer, and hope you have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, you just heard from Wilmer Cabrera, the new boss of El Paso Locomotive. And I mean, Mikka, that was it's always nice. It's a bit of a Seriously Loco tradition that we sit down with the boss. The first time we've ever had to sit down mid-season with a new manager. But nice to sit down with Wilmer, and nice to hear some honest, kind of straight talk about the state that Locomotive's in right now.
Yeah, Wilmer Cabrera was absolutely fantastic to talk to, as you all just heard, and shout out to the club obviously for being gracious enough to make him available to us. Much appreciated. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the assessment of the state of play in El Paso is, brutal but refreshing, I think. Wilmer, he obviously sees where the problems are. I think this past Saturday was particularly illustrative for him with the first home game that he was able to manage for El Paso Locomotive. And I think it's going to be incumbent on these players to really respond, right? Because Wilmer's first game in Charleston was obviously a big win. Nobody was expecting that against the best team in USL. So, he has that feather in his cap already. The fans are all, from what we can tell, on side, at Eighth Notch especially. But then to have this setback so soon after, it is really incumbent on the players to respond. And I think Wilmer said as much. And with that quick turnaround to San Antonio, it's kind of a blessing in disguise that they have such a quick opportunity to do that, responding. So, yeah, but really enjoyed the conversation with Wilmer, and obviously we hope that the rest of the season improves from here.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to hear a kind of stark assessment of things, and to know that he doesn't have any delusions about what his remit is and what the expectations are. Right. And I think he's made it quite clear, even since he arrived, and in doing availability on a Monday night when he moved into his apartment in El Paso today, the fact that he made himself available, that is just a clear indication that he wants to connect with the fans, wants to he mentioned us as like a bridge to the fans, which I thought was very gracious of him. But
absolutely,
but the fact that he sees it as important that he tries to build those connections, which we've talked about over the past couple of seasons as eroding a bit, and I think it's not coincidental really that the season that we talked about it starting to erode is also the season that the home form started to ebb away like from the team, and now it's at a point where we're trying to, sort of rebuild from scratch, unfortunately. I mean, the Legion match, it is, like you said, it was illustrative because we have this Legion match to put in stark contrast to how positive things started on the road in Charleston for Wilmer and company, obviously fighting back despite Charleston's equalizer, coming back, still winning that game. Amando Moreno with a moment of brilliance, obviously, to win that one. Contrast that with Legion, where it was like, we equalized after the opening goal, but then second half, it was basically like one-way traffic in front of goal, and Legion were just finding it very easy, I thought, to like get into the box and create like dangerous opportunities. I think they finished with 5 like big chances as defined by Opta, and the likes of Pasher and Prosper Kasim like really just had their way in many phases. So I mean, to go from limiting a team as good as Charleston to looking so easy to play against Birmingham, that really was the stark contrast of this Locomotive side at home versus on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing that Wilmer touched on is the seeming mental block that this Locomotive side seems to have at home for whatever reason. It's going to be his job to kind of figure out why that is and how to kind of arrest that slide. Because it really was such a stark contrast from what we saw in Charleston, which was really like a valiant effort, right, to keep out a team as good as Charleston Battery, and to see it over the line. What I would say about this game against Birmingham Legion in particular is that I do feel that it was a little bit a tale of two halves, in that I think the first half was mostly quite competent from Locomotive, at least from, what we've compared it to, which is what we've been seeing at home recently, which has just been not good enough.
Right.
And what I mean by that is, first of all, we vastly outpossessed them for the most part, and were able to pretty much cross the halfway line with ease, which sounds like a really like low bar, and it is, but we have seen that be a real challenge for this Locomotive side to even get out of their half at home sometimes. So we were doing that with regularity in the first half. It's really in the second half where Birmingham Legion were just able to find those pockets of space when we would get caught up, and it was too easy for the likes of, like you said, Tyler Pasher and Cassie to get ahead of their man and turn folks and get into the box and pretty much have unopposed shots on Jamali Waite's net. And without him, I think the scoreline is much more embarrassing, to be fair. But yeah, there were some green shoots of hope, I think, but also in the same token, there are also familiar thorns in our sides, if you will, about, being too easy to counter against, leaving gaps, maybe not having what Wilmer called la garra, right? The bite, the claw, literally translated, to fight to the death for every ball. And so, yeah, part of what he's been asked to do is raise the mentality of this squad, because it just needs to be better. So yeah, really unfortunate result against Birmingham Legion at home. In front of, what I want to also point out, in front of a pretty packed crowd.
Yeah.
there were definitely more butts and seats, over 5,000 people at that game for Wilmer's home debut. So, people are watching this new era of Locomotive with bated breath and are interested, and we spoke to Wilmer about how, his reception from Eighth Notch and how important that is. So, that only ratchets up the pressure, but pressure makes diamonds, right? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we sure will. The last thing I'll say on this Legion match is we had, like you said, the green shoots I think are particularly in buildup for Locomotive, and we saw the continued bravery in terms of the team getting the ball down, playing it on the floor, which I just am much more partial to than what we had opted for in build-up earlier this season and much of last season. I think that was obviously good. Like you said, we were crossing midfield well. The two areas that really got us were in each box, essentially, which unfortunately is where the difference is made. And I think where I think we got a little bit outdone by, I think it's a little bit of Birmingham, not figuring us out, but I mean, to a certain extent, playing the right system to sort of nullify us. They played a 4-3-3, which I'm just a little bit partial to, but I think in midfield we saw the difference of having that three in how it disrupted the likes of Joaquin Rivas and Tumi Moshibane and Amano Moreno, because there were just more bodies in the spaces that we wanted to get into. And whenever Locomotive got near Birmingham's penalty area, they were getting squeezed out, or there wasn't enough space to make the pass that they wanted, or their crosses were being blocked, or insert sort of intervention here. But yeah, they just struggled to really connect the dots once they got close to Birmingham's penalty area. And I think a lot of that has to do with the system they played in midfield that gave them that true six who could cover a little bit more space. And I think Locomotive's issue at the other end was very indicative of the lack of that number six, because in possession, when Liam and Eric are both playing as a double pivot, and they're both essentially playing box to box, neither is sort of identified as a holding midfielder, that sort of thing. It felt like they were very far upfield a lot of the times. And as a result, when Birmingham did get possession and they got into that space behind Eric and Liam, then it was just a single pass to get a player one-on-one with Brandon Craig, or in some cases, I think, unfortunately, Brandon Craig drops a bit of a shocker in this one. Tony doesn't cover himself in glory either, and it's, I don't think it's a night that many people are gonna write home about. But the reality was, it was just, there wasn't a whole lot of protection for the back line either, because of the system that was deployed. So I think in general, there's a little bit of a balance, and maybe this is part of the growing pains of new manager. Wilmer's going to obviously figure out what his best team is and where to use what personnel. I think heading into San Antonio, especially when you're okay, it's going to probably be a tough game, physical game. To me, packing that midfield and putting Bolo Akinyode out there is going to be really important, because it just gives you that extra layer ahead of your backline where you're not asking Brandon Craig and Tony Alfaro to be perfect or to have to make every single intervention. You've got that player who can be a little bit proactive and snuff things out. And I think that was where Locomotive's weaknesses were, where, like you said, I think there were a lot of times during the game where I'm watching what I'm seeing and I'm this feels sharper. It feels better. The way that they're passing, the way that they're linking up, it just feels better. I think like it just came apart at either end. And I do think there's merit in a front three. I think the front four has just been a little clunky. And then if that means that Bolu is in midfield, then I think that's a net positive ahead of San Antonio. But obviously you play the game for a reason, and it's not going to be decided on paper by any stretch of the imagination. And the reality is too, they're going to be facing a San Antonio team who's in a decent moment, having had sort of a patchy start to the season. They've kind of picked things up of late.
Yeah, I mean, and before I move on fully to San Antonio, I just want to point out, I mean, Wilmer Cabrera is already having to deal with adversity right out of the gate because we've got international call-ups. At least 3 of our players are going to be with their national teams, and then Lucas Stoffer's injury against Birmingham Legion, he had to be withdrawn early in the first half, and looks like he'll be out for probably a month, it sounds like. So, I mean, Wilmer's just got to find solutions, and with little time to actually do the groundwork to do that. So I do definitely feel for him in that regard, because there's just no time between matches to really like dig into all the nuts and bolts of what this squad is made of. And so after San Antonio, he'll have a little bit of a reprieve, 10 days before the next game to prepare. But yeah, as for San Antonio, I mean, like you said, they're in a good, I think moment is the right way to put it, because they did just beat Memphis. But before that, I think they had been winless, maybe one win in their last 7 before that, or something. So it's not been classic San Antonio by any means. They're kind of middle of the pack in the Western Conference, certainly more than we can say, of course. But yeah, they've been you can get at this San Antonio team, right?
Yeah.
And historically they've had the beating of us more in the rivalry, in this in-state rivalry. But it's a brand new slate, and I asked Justin Dillon, the ex San Antonio player, about the motivation going into this game, and obviously guys like him will want to put in big performances, and similar to kind of what we saw Lucho Soloniak do in that pretty famous fixture now. Was it last season where he scored that belter? Yeah. So run it back, but with Justin Dillon at the 9 this time, please. Yep. But yeah, so yeah, the San Antonio team, they are beatable. It might be too tall a task too early in the Wilmer Cabrera era, but we just have to see how we react on Wednesday. And that was another thing that Wilmer pointed out, is he wants to see a reaction, because the way that the team played against Birmingham was shocking to him. I think he made that clear. So they've got to come out and fight.
Yeah, and I do find it so fascinating when managers talk about this sort of stuff, because we all think of like the machinations and the like tactical setups and tweaks and all these sorts of things, and like at the end of the day, you are trying to motivate a group of people to execute the things that they know, right? And Wilmer is obviously trying to keep things quite simple coming in, because he's not going to introduce some, he even talked about how he has to tailor his tactics to the players that he has. Like he's not going to try to play some system that doesn't fit the group. And so it really is just about like putting them in their, a position where they understand what they need to execute, and then making sure that they are mentally and physically prepared to do that. So I always do find it interesting when managers say something as simple as, and I think this goes from like any level of management, where it's like the stuff that they'll say in the locker room will be quite like along the lines of what he discussed, where it's like, we have to fight. We have to be sharper. We have to be better. And I hope I see that response from the players. It is an interesting thing. when you boil it down, because there is no, like you said, he's not a magician, and there is no like complicated formula or anything to what's going on here. I think he sees a group of players that is underperforming, like where they, their own talent level. And so, yeah, I think like I mentioned in the interview, it feels like there's no better type of game than a in-state rival to inject that little bit more like needle into the game and everything. And I think like almost the key here is, it's almost this is going to sound weird because we're talking about how they need the fight and the passion and all of that stuff. And like, I do think there's going to be a little bit of needing to manage the moment. Because obviously you don't want anybody seeing red or anything like that either. And, I think in general, making sure that the team understands like how to manage that intensity and fight and everything is going to be so important, because finishing with 11 is probably going to be key to winning the game. So, yeah, it's an interesting, I think it's on the one hand, definitely the sort of match that can bring the passion back, but also the sort of match that could be a little bit tricky for a team that is feeling like they need to fight to prove themselves.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it is also an opportunity for Wilmer Cabrera to possibly make a little bit of history again, because the last manager to beat San Antonio for Locomotive was Mark Lowry. And Wilmer Cabrera did win his first match as a Locomotive boss, which is historical in and of itself.
Right.
So maybe he can, I don't know, gain a little bit of that magic from the Charleston match and try to do something that hasn't been done in quite some time.
Sure.
And beat San Antonio. And I don't know if we've ever beaten San Antonio on the road. I don't know that that's ever happened. Has it? I don't think so.
It's not coming to mind. Maybe COVID. Maybe there was a weird COVID, or
maybe.
I don't know. Because I actually remember a quite late winner from Justin Dillon, if I'm remembering correctly, to beat us in San Antonio. So, yeah.
We did beat them. Okay, yes, we beat them once in San Antonio, and that was in 2021. So, Soloniak penalty and Luna with the second goal.
That's right. I do remember that game.
So it has been a minute since we've gotten a win against San Antonio. So, yeah.
Well, it'll be it'll definitely be one to watch. Obviously, with the Wednesday game, I'm pretty sure this one is back on ESPN Plus, so I don't think there's any fancy instructions to follow in terms of watching this one. But I could be wrong on that. But because midweek is always a little
tweet
weird.
A correction,
but we'll let you know. And for anyone who ever wants to watch a game on CBS Sports Golazo, just know you can get it a number of different places for free. So just, if it is on CBS Sports Golazo, cbssports.com, Paramount Plus, Pluto TV, like all free places to be able to watch the game. So, Mikka, thanks for joining me for a great chat with Wilmer and a little bit of preview here and a little look at the Birmingham match, unfortunately. But we'll be watching on Wednesday night. We'll see if we can get a watch line together, but should be able to swing one. And then so that'll be on our Twitch and YouTube, and then you can find this. If you aren't already subscribed, you can subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And with all that being said, Mikka, I think that about wraps us up for the night.
I think so, man. It was a pleasure, and we'll be back after San Antonio.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone, and stay loco.